Hi guys, welcome back. It's time for my January wrap-up. It's already February 9th, yeah, as I'm filming this, so I'm not sure when you'll be watching this, but I do apologize for it's taking me so long. A lot of times when I have a wrap-up that involves a lot of books that I don't have physical copies of, it takes me a little while to get motivated to film it, because then I have to do a lot of editing and inserting pictures, and that's kind of the case with January. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I did pretty good. I went through like 14 stories, 6 novels, 6 graphic novels, 2 novellas. I managed to finish 3 series in the month, which I'm really happy for, because that's kind of a goal this year, is to polish off some of the series I'm involved in. And so I'm off to a really good start. So I'm going to go ahead and begin. The very first book that I read was Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, the graphic novel, and I'll insert a picture. I really enjoyed this graphic novel. I read it specifically because I want to refresh my memory of the events that took place in the first book before I begin the sequel, Hollow City. And I think the author did a really good job, and the artist, in capturing that first book. There were some spots where I think I would have liked a little bit more detail with regards to the children's abilities. I kind of skimmed a little bit over that more than I wanted. And some of the artwork at times was like very, like first draft, like a sketch, it seemed like, rather than a finished product. But sometimes I do enjoy that. It keeps it kind of loose and a little bit more refreshing. But overall, I gave this book 4 stars. The next book I read was Beautiful Chaos. This is book 3 in the Castor Chronicles by Garcia, Margaret Stohl. I've been really enjoying this series. I've given 5 stars to the first 2 books. The same with this one, also received 5 stars. Probably my favorite one so far. Again, we continue Ethan and Lena's story. Has a really amazing cliffhanger. I'm not going to go into detail with the book because it is the 3rd book in the series, but that cliffhanger makes me really want to dive into the 4th and final book, and of course that will help me, again, polish off another series, which is my goal, so I can't wait to start the last book in the series, so 5 stars for this one. Then I read a graphic novel entitled Utsubora, the story of a novelist by Asumiko Nakamura. This is a manga, Japanese manga. It is adult-oriented because there are some sexual themes within the illustrations and storyline. It's a bit of a complicated plot. It required me to kind of reread it to get as much as I could out of it. I think there are still some hidden meanings behind some of the images and storyline. It does take some concentration following the plot because it does kind of jump around a lot in the timeline. I did do a full review on this one. You can go ahead and check it out. I'll put a link down below, so I won't get into all detail of it, but I gave this one overall 4 stars. I also did a review of this one, Mark Siegel, Sailor Twain, or The Mermaid on the Hudson, story of a captain who discovers, a riverboat captain, he discovers an injured mermaid, nurses her back to health. I really enjoyed the bold kind of charcoal illustrations throughout the book. It really just kind of drew me in. It's kind of type of work I like. I don't always like a full color scheme. For the most part, I like just kind of simple. Sometimes I do like that, but this one I really, really enjoyed, and has a really great kind of dramatic, climactic conclusion to it, and I gave this one 4 stars as well. Then I read It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Vizzini, contemporary YA fiction, somewhat semi-autobiographical about the author who did spend some time in a psychiatric hospital when he was younger, battling depression. As we know, it ultimately claimed his life, sadly, and that was one of the reasons I decided to finally pick up the book. I thought it was very well written. This young boy by the name of Craig Gilner, he's a New York City teenager who is battling depression. It's kind of, his family is sort of unaware of it. He puts himself under a whole lot of pressure as he's trying to make it within this specific school that he wants to get into, and he's spends almost an entire year every day just studying to pass the exam that will get him in it. And once he's in the school, the pressures that are piled on him with the workload and everything really kind of come crashing down. His depression gets worse, and he nearly decides to commit suicide, but luckily checks himself into a psychiatric hospital. And this is sort of the story that takes place within the pages of the book and the ultimate conclusion. I thought it was very well written, a bit sad knowing the ultimate outcome of the author himself. But overall, I really enjoyed the book, and I did give this one 4 stars. The next one I read was Requiem by Lauren Oliver. This is book 3 in the book 3 in the Delirium trilogy. I've really enjoyed that series, kind of dystopian world where when you reach a specific age, you get surgery to make yourself no longer feel the passions of love and everything. Love is considered a disease. And it just is really, really enjoyed the series. This book was a disappointment. I overall gave this one only 3 stars. Felt like it didn't have a conclusion. It didn't have a nice, neat wrap-up of a lot of events. It just felt like it just ended, like the author kind of gave up on it. And I was really disappointed in that. Would have liked something a little bit more wrapped up at the end. So, again, I only gave this one 3 stars. The next book I read was Enders by Lissa Price. This is the final book in the duology, of the Starters duology, and I'll insert a picture here. Starters is a dystopian book about a world where a disease has kind of struck, and it was very dangerous, and the vaccination that was developed was first given to senior citizens and younger individuals because they were the most susceptible. But because of that, all the middle-aged people pretty much died away from this disease because they didn't get the vaccination in time. So we're left with the youth, which are referred to as starters, and the senior citizens, which are referred to as enders. And the starters have been sort of left to pretty much fend for themselves, and our main character, Callie, is looking after her younger brother and having to kind of basically steal and barter and trade and things like that to kind of get by. And Prime Destinations is this kind of government-type run organization that has been developed, and what it does is allow enders a way to body rent the starters, and starters will get paid in turn for the use of their bodies. And what it is a chip is put into the brain of the starters, and then the mind of the enders is transferred into the starter's body, and they can kind of relive their youth for a specific period of time. A contract is written and what they can and cannot do, and Callie has to resort to that in book 1. The old man is sort of a character referred to, and he is sort of running Prime Destinations. He is quite evil, plays a big part in book 2, and at this point, he can sort of control people that have the chip in their brain. And Callie is desperate to find a way, not only for herself, but other starters, to get this chip out. And that's kind of where we are in book 2. It was a really, really great series, a nice duology, everything's wrapped up. I really enjoyed the book, and I gave that one overall 4 stars. The next one I read was a middle grade graphic novel by Raina Telgemeier. She is the author of Smile, another graphic novel. This one is entitled Drama. So Drama was just a really delightful middle grade graphic novel about a young girl named Callie. She wants to be part of her musical theater production at her middle grade school. And she cannot sing. She's known this for quite some time, but she does become part of the stage crew for the production of Moon Over Mississippi. And she has some grand scheme to even shoot a cannon off on the stage, and really delves into this whole production of it and becoming friends with the rest of the crew on there, including 2 twins that are kind of new to the school and decide to kind of join in on the production. The book does deal with the issue of homosexuality, which I like the way the author and the main character handle the situation. I think that has caused some controversy with regards to the book, but I think that's just silly. It was a very well-written book. I love the illustrations and the really bright color tone to it, which just seems to suit this middle grade book. Just like her earlier one entitled Smile. I gave this one 5 stars as well, and I definitely recommend it. The next one I read was Not a Drop to Drink by Mindy McGinnis. So Not a Drop to Drink was just a really good YA kind of survival story about a teenage girl by the name of Lynn who lives with her mother out in the wilds near a pond which they have to sort of defend with their lives because this is their only source of water. This is a world where drought is really bad. There's a very short supply of water. A lot of people have moved to the city to be closer to where the government supplies them with water at a very exorbitant fee. And Lynn and her mother are actually better off where they're at because within the cities there are, disease, cholera is running rampant. The government has created rules where there's like population control because of the shortage of water and supplies. So Lynn and her mother are sort of staying put where they're at, defending this pond with their lives, and her mother is sort of training her for her future, learning all she needs to survive, whether it's killing her animals for food and skinning them or chopping wood, all these things that, you know, survival mode. And they spend a lot of their times up on the roof, you know, rifles in hand, scouting the land and looking for, you know, making sure everything is safe and protected. It's a world that's all that Lynn knows. She's grown up in this sort of situation and isn't familiar with lots of just general dealing with other people and even compassionate sort of shoot first, ask questions later when it comes to anyone coming nearby. And there are threats all over, besides whether the water will dry up and the pond will be dry. Coyote are a danger, and then there are the smoke from nearby campfires as people are kind of getting closer, and there's that threat. So it's sort of a coming of age for this main character and how she has to learn to open up and accept other people in her lives and sometimes rely on them, which is something very new for her. It's always defend, you know, and fend for yourself. So it was a really good book. I gave this one 4 stars. I've seen on Goodreads that there's another book, no picture or detail yet, but it's entitled In a Handful of Dust, which sounds very much like a potential sequel to this book. So there is a possibility that there will be a follow-up to it, although I think you could easily read this book and be satisfied with it as a standalone if you didn't want to continue with it. But I will be curious to see if there is a second book. The next one I read was actually 2 novellas from this particular book by Lauren Oliver, which is in the Delirium stories. I read Annabel and Raven. Hannah I read some time ago as an ebook, and then I picked this one up to kind of read the next 2. Although now I hear there's one called Alex, which I'm a little annoyed by because it would have been nice to have it all in one bound volume. But Annabel is the story of Lena's mother, and it kind of shifts in timeline between Annabelle's youth and then after she has Lena. And I thought it was very well written. It was interesting seeing her life and sort of at the beginnings of when this sort of dystopian world started to take effect, and her struggles with the operation that supposedly, you know, takes love or the ability to love from the person, which they consider a disease. And I really enjoyed that one. I gave that one 4 stars. And I read Raven as well. This is the rebel leader we come to meet in Pandemonium. A character I didn't really like or understand within that book, but I think now that I have read this novella, I understand her a little bit more. We also see her relationship with Tack, which is interesting. We find a little bit more about that character as well. I also gave that one 4 stars. After that, I read another book in the last book in the series, and I'm kind of glad to finish this one. This is Rapture, the 4th and final book in the Fallen series by Lauren Kate. It was a series that I kind of struggled with. It was just an okay series through most of the way. I think most of the books I just gave 3 stars to. Maybe angel stories just aren't my thing. I don't know. The continuing story of Daniel and Luce throughout this, and their love, and Luce's curse throughout the centuries, and trying to break this curse, and the eventual kind of meet up and battle, you might say, with Lucifer in this final book. I think this one was probably my favorite one of all of them. I think it did a really good job of wrapping up the story. Kind of sad, but kind of, I don't know. It was a very good wrap up, I think, overall with the main characters and the conclusion to their story. So, yeah, I'm in a way glad it's over, but I think they did a good job of wrapping it up, and I gave this one 4 stars. Now I also think the last 2 items I read were graphic novels. The first 2 in the series, and the series is Archaeologist of Shadows. This graphic novel is amazingly gorgeous. I've never seen artwork quite like this. So Archaeologist of Shadows, I'll go ahead and read the description. It says, in a world where every living thing is forced to become mechanical, the authorities punish those who resist transformation, although all wonder about the real reason for change. So it's like if you don't become mechanized enough, you'll be punished by the authorities. And this follows 2 main characters, Alex, a female, and Baltimo, I think is how you pronounce his name. And they are sort of already part mechanized, but do not want to continue. They are resisting the change, but are trying to keep under the radar of the authorities. And they find out about a resistance group and decide to try and hook up with them and sort of their story throughout. This is sort of part post-apocalyptic. There's a bit of steampunk in there, you could tell with regards to the look of the characters. And there's a sci-fi element, of course, running throughout the thing. It's just an amazing story. I'm really, really enjoying it. There's a large section of the back, of the end of the ebook download that I have that goes all into the making of it and the artwork involved in it. There's part sculpture, part CGI, illustration. Just really, really beautiful. I highly recommend this. The story is intriguing, and I really want to find out more about what's going to happen in the coming additions to it. Like I said, I've read the first 2. I don't know how many there will be, but I'm looking forward to continuing this. I gave book 1 5 stars and book 2 4 stars, but I definitely recommend you pick it up. I think it's like maybe 99 cents or $1.99 or something like that for Kindle or Nook download. I think the Nook download has the zoom feature, which is really nice to have on the ebooks because you can actually pinch and zoom in the detail of the artwork and in the dialogue, which you can easier to read sometimes. So yeah, I definitely recommend you pick those up. This has been my January wrap up. Like I said, I went through about 14 titles, so it's been a busy month. A lot of graphic novels, so that does kind of boost the numbers. But I'm just really happy to have kind of wrapped up a lot of series and ready to move on to some other ones. So hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books before, or what you thought about them, or if you think you might be picking up any of these. Let me know. Thanks for watching.